The American 1920s, now commonly referred to as the Roaring Twenties, began a cultural movement known as the Jazz Age. During this time, many innovations in both song and dance emerged. The birth of jazz is often accredited to Black Americans, but it was soon adopted by America's white middle class. Jazz became characterized by a meshing of African American traditions and the ideals of the white middle class society. Jazz became extremely popular in cities such as New York, Chicago, and New Orleans, and they quickly became central hubs for the movement. New York specifically with the Harlem Renaissance. Radio stations played a huge role in the eruption of the Jazz Age. Their development allowed the new tunes to be heard by listeners across the nation. The older generation objected to the Jazz Age, referring to it as vulgar and a moral disaster. On the other hand, the younger generation loved the newfound freedom that they achieved through jazz.
The counterculture of the 1960s wanted a more peaceful and tolerant world with equal rights for all and the elimination of war. Their goals were to end the war in Vietnam, spread the use of psychedelic drugs, achieve equal civil and social rights for all, and question the material system that their parents had raised them in. During Dwight Eisenhower's years as president, there was a consensus of how the average American should live. Americans were expected to have a house, a car, family, and a job. Then on November 22, 1963, the president was assassinated.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
The young voters that JFK connected to felt that they had lost hope in the future. They now felt that they had to bring about change in their own way. The hippie movement had begun. Groups such as the Merry Pranksters traveled across the country promoting drug use and outlandish behavior as a form of rebellion.
Opposition to the Vietnam War was a main political issue for the hippies. The war in Vietnam was being fought by drafted men who were being sent to die for an issue they had nothing to do with. For many, the height of the hippie movement was the Woodstock Art and Film Festival in upstate New York in 1969. Over 500,000 people showed up to this free concert where many famous bands played. The planners of the festival were not expecting so many people, and as a result there was not enough food and medical supplies. The festival came to symbolize everything that the hippies stood for because everyone got along in a communal setting. But the hippies were not forgotten. Their new music, culture, and lifestyle would make a long-term impact on the United States, and ideas formed in this movement continue to have an impact on how we live today.